Today we are going to discuss Peter Berger's Sociology of Religion. He was born in 1929, lived up to 2017. So he died very recently, if you notice. So he is Austrian born but American sociologist. He lived his life in America. The most important work of Peter Berger is The Sacred Canopy, the Social Construction of Religion. The Sacred Canopy, the Social Construction of Religion. That is his well-known book, and this is co-authored with Thomas Luckmann. So two of them wrote this book. It is well known and it is much studied today in our modern times. So the co-author is Thomas Luckmann. So let us now look at some of the contributing factors of his perspective on religion. Peter Berger begins as a sociologist who is interested in the question of knowledge. So his sociology is primarily dedicated to the sociology of knowledge, which is again influenced by another sociologist by name Karl Mannheim. Karl Mannheim said, sociology of knowledge is born out of phenomenological premises. Now let us try and understand what it means, phenomenological premise. According to Mannheim, there is no direct contact between the knower and the known. Normally when you do knowledge, we try to understand that I, as a knower, come to know about the object that is known through a certain process of knowing. So there is some kind of direct connection that is facilitated by the process of knowing between the knower and known. Mannheim thought always our knowledge is mediated. It is mediated through our consciousness. Now, consciousness is configured for different people in a different way. My consciousness would be very different depending on my life experience. So, it is my life world, my life experience that structures my consciousness. So each one of us experience reality differently. Of course, there is a presumption of a common reality. In other words, we have a certain intersubjectivity. There is a similarity in the consciousness, but even intersubjectivity is socially created. In other words, my belief, my consciousness, what I have in my consciousness must be affirmed by the society in which I live. Now there is a sociologist by name Solomon Asch. Now he conducted an experiment which came to be known as Asch experiment, that is named after his last name Asch, spelled A-S-C-H. Now what is this Asch experiment? There are many rods and all of the rods are of the same length except one rod which was of a different length size. So the experiment was this: few people, volunteers, were called and asked to identify which is the rod which is different in length from other rods. But the experiment is conducted in a very pre-arranged way. So what did Asch do? Except for one participant, all of them were members of his team. So he told all the members of the team to identify the wrong rod as the rod which is different in length. Only one person is not part of this pre-arranged program. So he doesn't know anything about it. So suppose let us say there are 10 people, 9 people of that are already members of Ash team. So they were all instructed by Ash that they have to identify one particular wrong rod as the one which is different in length. In fact, that is not the one which is different in length. Now, all 9 of them came one after another and identified the same rod, which is of course a wrong rod, which is not the right one, but identified the wrong rod as the rod which is different in length compared to other rods. So the 10th person who comes, he doesn't know anything about it. So now he begins to doubt his own judgment. Because so far he has been thinking he knows which is the right one, which is the rod which is different in length from other rods. But listening to the answers of others, he changed his mind. So he also identified the wrong rod as a rod which is different in length. Why did he do that? Because he did not find social support for the choice of his answer. Because he didn't find social support, he did not believe his own judgment. You see how we also look for co-affirmation by the society in which we live. We may have a correct judgment in the first place, but if everybody else is affirming something else which is wrong to be the right one, we also tend to change our mind. So the society in which we live shapes our consciousness for the most part. Now, this is a very important background. Now, there are many such experiments that are done with regard to this kind of how society influences your consciousness. Even if you have an independent thinking, you change your mind because you don't find support from the society in which you live. Based on this, Peter Berger develops his own understanding of society, and in particular the human society. Berger begins with the assertion, human being cannot think away from the human society. We are born in a particular human society, we are raised in the society, and we are socialized by that society. And therefore, we cannot think away from the human society. The humanum means the human nature, that's a technical term that is used, is what constitutes the society. So we are not just animals who are born with nature. We are human because we have a society. And in fact, no human is born human. We become human. We become human through a process of socialization. Animals are programmed genetically what they should do. They know how to react in a given situation. That happens genetically. We call that instinct. They are totally equipped. We are in a certain way humans incomplete from the biological point of view, and we need to be completed by the society in which we are born. So the humans cannot survive in isolation. So you can never become a human if you are, as a baby, you are completely isolated from the human society and so only your biological needs are taken at a stage to survive. You will still never become human. You need the society in order to be human. So animals need only two orders. They need only the biological order and the physical order. The biological order would imply all that is, part of their biological system, the genes they have. Physical order means the physical environment in which live. The animal, they need a certain physical conducive environment to survive, the natural environment. They need a place where, of course, the temperature is conducive for them to live. They have some availability of food resources and so on. Humans need a third order. The third order is called the social order. But the biological order and the physical order, they are given realities. Social order is not a given reality. It has to be produced. It has to be constructed. Now, this is the first assertion of Berger, that we cannot think away from the human society, because unlike the animals, we have three orders. Animals have only the biological order, the physical order. We also have the social order. But the social order is something that is constructed, not given. The second assertion he makes is this social order is socially constructed. Now, socially constructed would imply that what we are is shaped by our interactions with others. How we are raised and what we are raised to believe affect the way we lead our lives, the way we perceive others, and this also leads to how others perceive us. So in other words, the perception of reality, the way I see myself, others and everything around me are colored by my beliefs and backgrounds, dependent on which society you are born in and in which society you are raised. So what you consider to be right is something that is socially given to you. In another society, that may be considered wrong. Or what you consider wrong is given to you by the society which has created it. But of course, through interaction with one another, over a period of time, they evolve this construction. So social order is what gives you morality as well. So therefore, in another society, you would have a complete different set of values and norms. Their moral life would be very different. So our reality is a constant negotiation, but is also a complicated negotiation. In fact, what is real depends on what is socially acceptable. So we don't do certain things because we find it socially not acceptable. That is why we don't do, even if we want to do it. So most social interactions involve the acceptance of others in the society. Therefore, the construction of reality is done by the society, which means by you and me, but it is not a product of only my own doing. It is not exclusively mine, because others are involved in that. So that is important. So others' perception matter in the way that we construct our reality. When I say construction of reality, it involves everything: your lifestyle, your belief system, your moral values. All these things are part of the construction of reality. We have certain ways of leading our lives, and that is created by the reality, by the society in which we live. All this means a construction of reality. Now, therefore, our everyday situation depends on our respective experience and backgrounds. The third assertion Berger makes is the social order is constructed in three phases. There are three phases in which this social order is continuously constructed. These three phases are, he calls, externalization, objectification, and internalization. I shall explain each one of that a little bit in detail. Externalization, objectification, and internalization. Now, what is externalization? Externalization is once the social order is constructed, it is outside of you. It is external to every individual, regardless of whether you acknowledge it or not. You might have contributed to the construction of that order, but the moment it is constructed, it is external to you. So it is by going out into that which is externalized into the order which is institutionalized outside of you, you can learn about that social order. Now, that is the meaning of externalization. It is not part of you, it is outside of you. Now, what is objectification? Objectification is that this order that is externalized, it is created by some individuals in the society, but it is now external to them. It is presented as outside of them. Now, that which is externalized attains a character of objectivity. Now, this objectivity is a constructed objectivity. Now, this situation creates a paradox because humans create a world and later they experience this as something different from human made. We create moral code, we create values, we create etiquette, we create lifestyle, we create beliefs, but we somehow experience it as something outside of us, objectively existing. It is not human made. So that is, it attains a character of objectivity. So externalization and objectification, they are kind of, it is a continuous moment. The moment you externalize, you objectify it. Externalization is something that you from your own make it, you create it of your own. Objectification is now, it becomes not what you made or not humans made, but something it exists on its own. Now the third phase is the internalization. Now each individual experience this, whatever is human made, which gains certain objectivity, as something that you have to appropriate for yourself. Each individual finds a personal meaning by internalizing what is objective. There are moral values that are objectively there. You begin to learn to accept it and put it into practice, and you find meaning in them. There are beliefs that are objectified, and you now begin to internalize and make it your own, and then you find meaning in them. So this is what is known as these three phases of social construction of social order. Now the fourth assertion Peter Berger makes is the fact that the social order is constructed by us and later gained objectivity. This social order is precarious. It is not stable. It can collapse anytime. That is the meaning of precarious. Because it is not stable, this precarious social order must be stabilized. It must be legalized. This is because the social order humanly constructed is by its very nature precarious. So this legitimacy, or the process of legitimacy, or the process of stabilization, is what Peter Berger calls cosmosation. This process of giving legitimacy to the precarious social order, the social order which may collapse anytime, which is not stable, unless you legitimize that. That is called cosmosation. During the discussion, I will give you many examples of how this actual life, how it governs us. Cosmosation can be of two types. It can be done in the secular mode, or it can be done in the sacred mode. You try to stabilize, legitimize the precarious social order, which involves your habits, your beliefs, your customs, your moral values. All these are part of your social order, by explaining it through science. There is a reason why you do it this way. So there is a rational way in which it can be explained. That's what we call science. Therefore, it is a secular mode. It can also be done in a sacred mode. This is where religion comes in. You try to stabilize the social order by invoking religion. Religion begins to sanction, stabilize this precarious social order. How does it do? Religion can again do it in two ways. It can done through the ritual act, which he technically calls this mimetic interpretation. It is kind of ritually following that particular social order. You imitate that social order in your life. That is called mimetic interpretation. Or you can do it by way of rational explanation. Or you can try to give some rational explanation, but not through the use of science, but through the use of religion, by invoking God. That rational explanation is what we call theology. Theology is basically a rational explanation within the framework of religion. So you can legitimize this precarious social order with the help of religion in the sacred mode in two ways. Either you have a mimetic interpretation, you imitate that social order in all that you do, in your rituals, in your cult and so on, or in your everyday religious practices. Or you can legitimize it through a rational explanation within the framework of religion, which is called theology. This social construction of reality is considered as a creation of norms and social order amidst the chaos and anomy. Anomy means non-existence of rule. And this is legitimized in the sacred mode. And that is why we call this, anomy. So this is when it is legitimized in sacred mode, religion for him becomes a way in which offers fundamental support for the precarious constructed social world. Now, because in sacred mode, the social construction of social reality or social order is legitimized, we need some plausibility structures. Now, the plausibility structures can be of various types. The plausibility structure basically means you need to have certain ways in which you can continue to reinforce this particular social order that we have created. Now, the plausibility structures, according to Weber, includes community of believers. First of all, you need certain people to believe in what you are saying. You need to have constant conversational network. It is not enough that you have a community of believers. You need to have a conversation through preaching, through catechism, all those things, so that is constantly reaffirmed. You need some therapeutic practices. Now, the therapeutic practices includes prayer, individual, collective, also other kind of rituals. Therapeutic practices. Other words, community of believers is a word that is commonly known. Conversational network, that also you understand. It's not very difficult. Therapeutic practices means it is reinforced by little practices that you do, which has therapeutic value. In this case, your individual prayer, your collective rituals, all those things are therapeutic practices. Then you also need, lastly, what Berger calls legitimation. This legitimation basically means you need to learn to explain that. This legitimation is done through theology. Theology is basically a legitimation of, legitimation by which you create plausible structures which would support which would uphold the precarious social order. Based on this particular understanding, Berger claims religion therefore becomes an agency of alienation. Why it is an alienation? Because what religion does is it extends too much the process of objectification. Why? For the simple reason, in fact, the social order is not outside of human construction. It is human who constructed the social order. But now the social order becomes totally an autonomous entity, independent of human. And then it is sanctioned and legitimized by, it can be legitimized otherwise in the secular mode, but often in the sacred mode, in religion. And the very order which you created is now alienated from you. The very social order which you and I created is alienated from you because of this legitimization that is done of the social order by religion. So religion becomes an agency of alienation. Therefore, because it is an alienation of it is an agency of alienation, religion creates a false consciousness. It creates a false consciousness about the social order. And this kind of alienation cannot be overcome easily because now it is completely sanctioned and then you take it as absolute truth, and therefore it becomes problematic. This particular way of stabilizing through cosmosation is called sacred canopy. Therefore, religion is a sacred canopy. When you see underneath, you would find the reality, but that is, it is covered. The canopy is something that covers, like a cushion that covers things. What is the outer layer? What you see is the stable social order legitimized by the religion. Unless and otherwise you remove the sacred canopy. Religion is a sacred canopy which masks that the social order is a constructed reality. Unless and otherwise you remove that sacred canopy, you will not be able to see that the social order is in fact socially constructed by humans. Now, let us look at some of the merits of his argument. Positively, he gives an elaborate function of religion. In other words, religion somehow seems to be necessary for maintaining social order because religion has a legitimizing function. In that sense, you can think of religion, having a social, having an important function in maintaining the social order. But negatively, there are various ways in which religion legitimizes what we create, oftentimes for selfish reasons. Because different norms are created by different societies for their own, to meet their own ends. And if religion begins to legitimize all those things, then religion is in a way contributing to certain unjust social order as well. Berger also says, however, with the increased process of secularization, we would realize that there is a plurality of world that exists. There are different social orders that exist. In that case, religion will be considered not necessary. The whole debate on the process of secularization. I'm not going into details of that. That is a topic by itself, secularization. But nevertheless, he is also telling, there is a possibility that religion would not be necessary when we begin to be realistic about this existence of the plurality of worlds. Now, that is all about the critique that I have about Berger, but we can have one simple question that we can think about. Whom does religion really serve? The question that is important, because if religion is used to stabilize social order is often created by the powerful, which means religion ends up serving the powerful, justifying the needs of the powerful in creating a social order in a particular way. Of course, you need some kind of stability in the society, but absolute stability can also lead to dehumanization. How do you respond to this? Does religion, by offering stability to a certain social order, leads to certain dehumanization? These are questions for you to think and reflect. With this, I conclude this lecture. We'll take up a few time for discussion before I can conclude this course on sociology of religion. Thank you.